Hey everybody, welcome back to the carbon fiber build. In the last episode I did the glue up on the body, and it's cured overnight and should be ready to go. Everything's looking good. It exhibits a small amount of flexibility in this direction, but I don't think it's going to be an issue. What I might want to do to help counter that would be, for example, if I put a shim in for the pickup, I'd put in a shim that covers all 6 tubes, and I'd glue it to all 6 tubes. And I'd make sure that it was, if possible, I'd try to make it out of something stiff in order to help counteract flex in this direction. But as far as flex in this direction goes, this way, it doesn't seem to be an issue at all, not even just for the heel right here. So everything should be good. Now it's time to drill, which is going to be the hardest part of this whole build probably. And 2 basic things to be figured out. I know roughly where the holes go, but I need to figure out exactly where the holes are going to go. And I need to figure out exactly what size screws I'm going to be using. In general, I anticipate I'm going to have to cut screws to length for probably all this. So, but the basic idea is that that's the front of the guitar. Is that it's going to go on about like that, and then on one side there'll be a screw going through this tube and into here, and there'll be a nut inside there. It's not going to be easy. And then there'll be a second screw going into this other tube, or through this other tube, and then back here, and there'll be a second nut back there. Yeah, so, and the way you do that is you take the nut and you like tape it to a little stick. You shove it up in there until you can see it through the hole, and then you put your screw in. And it works. I've done it on a couple other builds, so it's not easy, but it does work. And that gives you a bolt-on capability that gives you the ability to adjust neck angle and brake angle and things like that. Neck alignment and brake angle both, So, yeah, I think I'm going to start by going to fish for some screws, figure out exactly what size I'm going to be dealing with. I'm relatively confident that I've got everything I need here in-house. I'd really hate to, put this build on hold and have to order more parts, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, I've been thinking about it and checking out the hardware available and stuff like that. And there's 2 basic approaches. Machine screw hardware and wood screw hardware that uses wood inserts. I'm formally trained as an engineer, so I really can't help thinking in those terms, where from an engineering point of view, for the task at hand, either method is going to be plenty strong enough to secure things, assuming, the method is appropriate for whatever kind of joint you're trying to create. So, there's no real need to use one or the other for strength purposes. So then it comes down to ease of installation, ease of manufacture. And the idea with the wood insert is basically you take a bit of dowel of the appropriate size, such as that, and you just kind of go like that. What you do is you figure out where your hole's going to be, like right there. You drill your hole through your carbon fiber, just the top, not all the way through. Then you get a piece of wood insert of the appropriate size put a dab of glue on it, shove it up in there, and then you can drill through the hole that you have in the carbon fiber in order to drill the wood to accept a wood screw. And that works just fine. I've used that method in the past. And the advantage it has over using some kind of a machine screw kind of thing is that with the machine screws, you drill your hole, and then you got to like take this and tape it to a little popsicle stick or something and get it up under there under the hole, and then get your screw and get them to thread up and stuff, and it's much more fidgety. I've also done it that way too, and that also works. So for ease of installation and ease of assembly, the wood screw and wood insert is going to be preferable, I think. And so taking a look at what's going on, it looks like you do like a wood insert here, and then you do just 2 diagonal holes like that kind of a thing for 2 wood screws. And then for this thing, this is clocking in at 21 millimeters wide. This is clocking in at 20 as planned. So I'm going to have to sand to fit to get this to drop down in there. And then I can use wood inserts for the 2 outsides, because they'll look a little better than machine screws. And for the insides, I can use machine screws. That kind of an idea. But longer ones that go like all the way through, and then the nut goes on this side, and then once I've got it on, I figure out that'll show me how much is sticking up, mark that with a Sharpie, take it all apart, and then use like the bolt cutters and cut the end off to length, and then clean it up with like a little grinding stone on the Dremel or something like that. Or maybe even just grind the whole thing down by holding it with pliers and taking it out to the bench grinder with the medium grit grinding stone on it. So it's looking like wood screws for the neck, wood screws for the outboard bridge screws, and machine screws for the inboard is going to be the way to go. It's going to, there's no difference as far as like the strength of the joints goes. Either one will work fine. And the wood screws are going to be the easier way to do it for these large tubes. And on these small tubes, you just run a screw just straight all the way through, and that takes care of it. And on the body, here on the bottom of the body, you've got some extra space, so it's not like the end of the screw and the nut are going to be sticking up below the bottom of the guitar, so to speak. So I'm thinking that's going to be the approach, and so now I need to fish up some wood screws and stuff, and appropriate length machine screws for that. Okay, we have hardware. Neck screws. The points will have to be cut off. These would be the front screws for the bridge. Once again, the points will have to be cut off. And these machine screws actually are almost the perfect size for the back here at the bridge to go through the small tubes on the body. Now, I also want to figure out the swing bar because that might call for wood inserts, and it's best to figure out all that ahead of time. I might be able to, do 2 screws with just one large insert kind of a thing. I don't want to like get one wood insert in there and then discover I'd need another one for the leg bar and then have no real way to get it in and no way to get the old one out or something like that. So I'm going to need to figure out the leg bar as well. And, but at least this takes care of the hardware for getting the neck and the bridge on. And then it's just a matter of exactly where the screws will go on the neck and on the body. And I'm going to have to sand or grind or something for clearance here. Get a 1/2 mil clearance more on each side, so this will drop in and stay centered. Okay, yeah, let me see what's up with the leg bar. Like I did this just recently for guitar number 6. I was looking at all the old X13 type designs to figure out how they did the leg bar. Yeah, these screws are kind of close to each other, but not too close apparently, because it's been used on a number of builds and there don't seem to be any issues. So this is going to be the basic setup, which means that we're going to want to attach a leg bar like somewhere about there. And then we're going to have to put a hole like there. Wow. Because this is going to have bracket over it. So, makes you say, Alright, well it's supposed to go roughly here and here for the leg, and then other places for Park and the strap. I gotta think about this. Okay, a wood insert on like this thing here is not really happening. They're awfully small and you wouldn't be able to get a very big piece of wood in there. And then if you're trying to come in with some kind of serious screw like this versus this little tube here, that's probably not good. And then trying to grab the wood inside the tube and have it be strong, not happening unless you flood it with CA glue or something. So it looks like it's not really going to be able to screw into the small tubes, which means you got to put it into the big tubes using wood inserts. So you'd put the pivot screw would go like get it so it tilts up the same way. There we go. And so they look roughly even in the camera. Alright, so pivot screw, instead of going like here, would go out here. And then when you're down at the leg position this way, you would have an extra bar that's attached here to the leg bar it comes back up to the body so that you could come down this way and then come up and then screw in there. And then for park, you would swing it over, and once again you'd have to screw in here. And then for the strap, you might be able to screw in up here. But you would basically be limited to, you would add a little extension bar here to the leg bar, and then you'd be limited to these two tubes that you could screw in to for your leg and park and strap positions. And then it's a question of how do you make this little bar if you're working in carbon fiber. Okay, that's all the carbon fiber tubing that's left. All this stuff and this piece, that's all 17 mil. There's that much 15 mil left, and then the rest is 10. And this particular piece of 17 is just about the perfect length for a leg bar. Leg bars are typically 18 inches, and this is maybe about that much longer than the leg bar on the X13. So this is probably going to be pretty good right here. Now it's a question of how do you attach a stand or a little bar like that onto it so that you can do this kind of a thing. So, let's see, you could drill through and then put a wood insert in here and then do a wood screw, and that would hold it. And yeah, that would do that part. If you wanted to be fancy, you could even try to sand this down kind of round so it fit better. And then let's see, and then you could just drill a hole through there for your thumb screw. And let's see, this would take a wood screw and a wood insert in this bar over here. And then let's see, and you'd have wood inserts in these bars also for this end. And then you'd need some kind of material for the thumb screw if you wanted to make it out of carbon fiber as well. And I think that would work. You just kind of implement it all using the 17 millimeter stuff here. And you'd have a bar with a little post on it, and then some kind of a thumb screw, and use wood inserts for everything, and use wood screws for it all, and I think that'll work. So, cool. Then it's just a matter of figuring out exactly where these holes need to go. But that is a way that it can get, that it will work. Need to figure out where the holes will have to go, and also exactly how long this bar has to be and where it's going to need to go. So, still a fair amount of figuring to go, but I think it'll help if I get now that I've figured out how I'm going to do this, if I get the neck on, I think it'll help, because I want to, well, I don't know. Normally the way I would do it is I would get the neck on, and I would get the bridge on, and I would figure out where the saddle line was, and then I could sit down and set the thing on my leg and figure out at 25 degrees exactly where along here the pivot screw is going to fall. Actually, that's backwards. Where along here the pivot screw is going to fall. And And that's the way I normally do it. Because that way you can you get the guitar put together more or less that much, and then you set it on your leg so that you got it, you know, where you want it this way. And then that determines where the top of your leg is, determines where you want the bar to meet the body, basically. So, of course, I could also, I suppose, look at the other builds and see where the bar meets the body in relation to them. As I recall, in general, they tend to meet right here at the front of the bridge, because the theoretical saddle line is more or less right where the holes are. The saddles are about that big, and the actual intonation points in the center of them. So, yeah, it's about 5 mil back from the front edge, as I recall, something like that. But, yeah, so that puts your intonation, your saddle line, like right along the line for these holes. And then, and your bar would be, yeah, coming out from somewhere right around here. Somewhere right around there. Well, let's see. What's first? I think maybe some neck screw holes might be first. Because I can always, like, you know, put it together and take it apart again in order to do other things. The only thing I can't really do is glue in inserts that I might need to remove later because of doing the swing bar. So that's what I need to be careful about. And technically, you can put it in an insert without gluing it. You just you drill your carbon fiber hole, and then you take your insert and you cut it to length, and you mark it out, and you drill it for your wood screw, and then you just shove it down there until it shows up. You might have to fiddle with a little bit, or like tape it to another piece of stick to shove it up there so that you can twist it around. But there's more than one way to skin a cat. So, yeah, I think I've got enough figured out that I can. It'll be easier to figure out stuff the more put together the guitar is, and I've got enough figured out that I can proceed without doing something wrong, I think. So that's the big thing, is that, you know, with the carbon fiber, it's not like wood where you can undo almost any mistake, probably, one way or another, even if you got to, you know, drill and glue in a plug and then re-drill or whatever. But yeah, with wood, it's, you know, how do I fix this if I put a hole in the wrong place or cut it too short or whatever? So, yeah. Or glue something in and can't get it back out again, you know. So let me see. Yeah. I think it's time to start marking out some holes for this neck. I think I'm going to do the bridge first. That way I can have the bridge on and have the saddles installed and set the #1 string saddle all the way forward, and from that I can determine exactly where the neck needs to go. Because this pretty much is, you know, this is more or less fixed, or should be fixed. And this is where I've got my play, so to speak, as far as like getting 648 millimeters or whatever it is, 25.5-inch scale leg. So I think I'm going to do the bridge first, which means I've got to like sand or file for clearance. So much fun. All right, so already gluing the stuff is fidgety. Carbon fiber, dealing with carbon fiber as opposed to wood. Gluing the stuff is fidgety. If this was wood, this would be trivial. Here, I don't know if it's going to be trivial or not. I'm not sure if I can do this without, like, this could possibly even compromise structural integrity of the guitar. But let's hope not. This is an experimental build, no guarantees. As you can see, I'm still having to figure out some details on the fly here, and there's no guarantees that any of this will work. So far, so good, and I'm not really trying anything that I haven't more or less kind of tried before. So, for example, this thin neck heel, I did a build, the first version of the Scarab, in fact, had something like this in plywood, and it worked, but the plywood, of course, had bending issues, and the carbon fiber, by comparison, does not bend at all. So this should be okay for this build. On the Scarab, I actually ended up redoing it with a triangular heel in order to strengthen that heel joint. Made a new body for it. So, yeah, on the plus side, I mean, this weighs a little less than a wood neck with a trapezoid and no head. And this weighs like nothing. Let me see, I got a pine body blank here. Oh yeah, this weighs like nothing. I mean, this weighs like this paintbrush by comparison. So, yeah. Definitely reduces the weight. But now, is that something you need? Or is that something that's nice? Or is this all really just bling? Off the top of my head, I'd have to say it's really just bling, to tell you the truth. Unless there's some real sonic difference in using this material, a sonic improvement, let's say, in using this material over wood, then that would be the only thing that I can think of offhand that would put a carbon fiber body, at least, into the needs or nice category. So far, yeah, it's just bling. As far as like all this glue on it, you can see there's a little bit of squeeze out and stuff like that. That can be sanded down, and then you just squirt it with clear lacquer and it looks brand new again. I've done that before as well. So, yeah, so now on the neck side, no truss rod. That's very cool. This neck will be, I could take this thing and go to the South Pole with it and then go to the Sahara Desert immediately, and it should be fine. And I suppose there's something to be said for that. Especially if you're, going to be gigging out in severe climate changes from, room to room or venue to venue, then yeah, definitely something to be said for this. There's a slight weight savings, and it's not that much more expensive than a regular neck. You're talking like maybe twice the cost, like 35 versus 70, 40 versus 80, that kind of thing. So yeah, that would fall under a nice category rating. Do you need a carbon fiber neck? No. Is it nice to have? Yeah. No truss rod? Hell yes, that's nice. And it's definitely scores some bling points, I'd say. But yeah, it's hard work. Oh my God, you should have seen me trying to saw this stuff. You get maybe halfway through, and the saw wouldn't draw back anymore. And so you'd take it out, you'd put it in the groove to make a cut, you'd pull one cut, you'd take it out of the groove, put it back in to make the next cut, pull one cut, pull one cut, pull one cut. Yeah, oh, real pain to cut. And drilling's going to be a pain too. So yeah, and now I've got to grind or sand, and that's going to be a pain. So I don't know about, as far as like, yeah, it's definitely not as easy to work with as some woods. This is every bit as difficult as working with your hardest hardwood. So as far as like the pain, just in how long it takes to cut, how hard it is. So, all right, well, time for me to grind, I guess. Well, that wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Use the fine side of the Shinto rasp here. And let's see here, yeah. Flatten that side right there, that edge, and this edge right in here. And there it is. One bridge. So I got to drill there and there and there and there. But this might be enough to figure out what's going on, because it sits in there pretty tight. Let me put it together. Okay, got the bridge put together. And number one saddle is adjusted all the way forward. Saddles are locked down, and it's in the slot in the body, all nice and snug, so it's not going anywhere. And now we can figure out just exactly where this neck needs to be. And it looks like it's going to be about there, which is maybe 5 or 6 mil. The end of the neck comes to about there. So, yeah. And I'll make more precise measurements before I mark things out. But yeah, that's what we're looking at. Neck's going to go right about there. I'll slap a piece of tape down, and then I can get my spacing for these holes here. And that'll be that. Over here on the bracket side, I need to take the bridge bracket off of the bracket, and then I can mark out those holes. So yeah, it looks like it's time to start marking out some holes. Okay, I think I've got everything marked out here. That's where the end of the neck is. It's the edge of that tape. That's where the two neck screw holes are going to be, roughly. Over here, that's where one actually goes in, and that's where the other actually goes in. And the neck will come up to here. And this is where the neck screws will go into the neck. And this will go just about like that. So now it's time to drill. Okay, for drilling these holes, I got the drill press, got the big cordless, I got the mini drill, and of course I've got, like hand drills and stuff like that. But I'm thinking use like a mini drill kind of a thing, and then use like some micro drill bits to start, because these all have to be drilled at an angle. So how's that for a small drill bit? Here goes nothing. Now, one problem is that you can't really punch this stuff. And this is not variable speed, which might, ooh, look at that, make this hard. Sure hope I don't break a bit. I only have 2 of these. There it is. That's one pilot hole. Alright, that's enough footage of action. I'm going to skip ahead a bit.